Good evening, folks, and welcome inside the latest edition of Zach with an H on Network 216. Very excited to introduce today's guest. He has made some incredible content for the entire internet and folks in Europe to enjoy. He hails from Australia. He is Richard Lindesay, and if you have not heard his name, well, I would be surprised if you have not. Here is what you would know.
In the daytime, so it's not dark. There are lots of birds here, but there are no sharks.
Richard Lindesay is making the recorder great again. He has got some incredible videos. Had to reach out, see if he was interested in speaking. We got in touch over 2 months ago. Finally, here making it happen today. Richard is 14 hours ahead in Great Down Under in Australia. Richard, excited to chat about your recorder journey and find out more of maybe what we don't already know about you, your work. So I think it's incredible what you've been able to do and captivate.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And so, Richard, everyone, when they're young, has that first thing they really want to do. Whether they aspire to do it or not, that's a whole other conversation. But when you were younger, what did young Richard want to do with his life? What did he want to get out of it?
You know what? I didn't actually really have anything I did want to do. I know most people do, but I didn't. I was just a very in the moment kind of kid. So I just kind of focused on what was in front of me. I was in my own little world, really, like making up little songs and singing around and stuff. So no, I didn't actually have something.
When did you start playing the recorder then? Was that something when you're younger? Was it something that was in school? Was it something that you kind of just had and decided, you know what? Maybe now's the time to start playing a couple notes.
I was also a bit of a disruptive child, so I was a little bit naughty, I guess, and a little bit loud. And what happened is my mum actually got me started playing the recorder as something to keep me busy. So that's what happened when I was about 6 years old. So yeah, we didn't have recorder classes in my school, but yeah, I had private lessons playing the recorder, and I was taught by a guy who lived in the woods with a big bushy beard that came out of the woods to teach recorder. And so yeah, that's where I started. I then stopped a few years later to play the flute, which because at the time it was considered an upgrade to play the flute. I
Yeah.
don't agree with that really so much anymore, but yeah, I played the flute. Then in my teens, gave it a huge break, and then started again playing both recorder and flute about 5 years ago as part of my stand-up comedy.
And very happy. I want to say thank you for doing that because it has been really enjoyable to go through. Obviously, I found your stuff a little later than some other people may have, but as soon as the first thing came in, I mean that's personally, for me, I'm one of those. If something is catchy, it's gonna latch on, right? You're gonna want to hear it again and again. You're gonna start singing it. You're gonna start humming. You're gonna start sharing it with people, and before you know it, right, you're going on a road trip. You're in the car for 2 hours, and you just sang Richard Lindesay for 60 minutes. You're halfway there. So I thank you for putting it out in the world. Is my first thing I have to say because it's really been fun to get to know it.
Thanks. It's been really fun just putting it out there and seeing people's reactions to it. Surprising, because I always had these little songs in my head and these little things like when you're at home and you're mucking around, do you ever like make up little songs about I'm putting the kettle on and here's a bit of cheese and stuff like that? I always did that, but I didn't think anyone else would care about it. Then all of a sudden I started releasing videos of me singing songs like this, and they did. So that was a nice surprise.
And I will say that I have not put mine out there, but I do definitely do similar things. If I'm taking out the trash, taking out the trash, got to empty the pockets of all the cash. I
Mm.
totally understand, and it's amazing, right? When you have this creative mind, and you're really just messing around. You don't know what's going to come of it. You throw it out there, and all of a sudden, it's really catching on because it's just so relatable, and so many people, right, can say, you know what, I relate to this. Sometimes I'll honestly sit in the park, I'll sit in the corner, I'll do my thing, and honestly, it's so relatable.
I think that's partly like what creativity is like. Really, it's just things that automatically come to you and what you enjoy. And I guess one of the reasons I hadn't really shared this stuff is I thought no one's going to be interested in this kind of thing. But then I realized that, I'm not that special really. There's Because I've thought of something, if I enjoy something, the chances are that other people will too.
Yeah.
Mm.
And as you've kind of gone ahead, Richard, is there anybody that inspired you with this style? Is this completely something from you? Is the beats that you've come across, are those all yours? Have you taken inspiration from anybody, or is it really just kind of an original?
Everything's original, so I just kind of started doing stuff in a way that I liked. Yeah, I created all the beats, I've created all the background tracks and everything. In hindsight, though, like when I look at it, I can see influences. I can see influences which I didn't really think of at the time. And one of them is, do you know Jim Henson and the Muppets and Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I can tell that I've got a bit of an influence there, which must have come from my past as a child, because yeah, some of them do sound like they might have been written by Jim Henson or that kind of era. Um, Also, I can see I liked early '90s G-funk era gangster rap, and,
Yes.
and and I can hear some of the beats and the bass kind of feeling a bit like those. And also, I liked metal, so like symphonic metal from the Nordic areas of Europe, and some of my arrangements kind of feel a little bit like that as well. So yeah, a bit of a range there. Yeah, not intentional influences, but yeah, hindsight by looking at it and then thinking, what is this a bit like? And another one in Australia, I'm not sure if you'd be familiar in the USA, but I have a bit of a cross section of fans with an Australian group called the Wiggles.
I know we know the Wiggles here. The,
Oh,
the,
you know
fruit,
the
the fruit
Wiggles.
salad yummy yummy guys, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, my fan club's got a fair few Wiggles fans in it too, which is cute.
That's a nice 1-2 punch. Richard
Yeah.
Lindesay here, the Wiggles here. You got imagine you're eating you start incorporating the fruit salad and some of their other stuff, and all of a sudden you've got an incredible collab. That's honestly now you're bridging the gap between generations. They had
Yeah.
the Wiggle, we've got Richard Lindesay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of the content you've put out, as we've talked about, and how we're here today, has gone viral. You were on Britain's Got Talent.
Yep.
You went toe to toe with Simon Cowell, so certainly I'm sure was an experience. So what would you say? And feel free to list as few or as many here. Just this is a great time to glow because you definitely earned this opportunity, and I'm sure you have before, and absolutely use it again. What have been some of your favorite memories with the recorder, and kind of where it's taken you on your journey?
Probably my first favorite and kind of foundational memory was when I did my first show in the UK. So my first kind of concert was just me. So before I started doing the recorder stuff on TikTok and all the social media platforms and it got traction, I'd been doing stand up comedy and I still do. And I've been using recorder and flute as a small part of my stand up comedy. So I tell jokes and I do a little bit with flute and recorder. But since it started taking off online and I've been considered a bit more like a musical artist, the first show which I did myself, which was more like a concert, was in London. And I think that was one of my favorite memories because, yeah, it actually felt like I was being more of a musician than a comedian, and the audience were really into it. And yeah, that was lovely. And it was about an hour long show. And I guess the surprise for me was it was an hour long show, but then I went out afterwards, and it was also an additional hour meeting everybody afterwards. So I guess it was a moment where it kind of went from realizing that fans online translate to fans in real life as well. So that was quite a surprise. And it was lovely, yeah. Nice getting to meet people. And I resolved that whenever I do a concert, I'll always meet people afterwards. I think it's a good thing to do, a nice thing to do. Um, then following on from that, the next moment was my concert in Adelaide, and the one in Adelaide was Adelaide in Australia. That's part of South Australia. In Adelaide, it was like a rock concert. So there were a few more teenagers and adults in it, and they were chanting and singing along and just really loud. So that was a surprise. So from the stage, I was a bit, whoa, what's this? So I had to amp up what I was doing, and then yeah, because they had energy, it brought more energy to me, and it just made for a really excellent time. I guess yeah, they were the main two. I guess another thing was one of the things that I've always done is I've been led by what people ask for. So when I first started doing the songs on TikTok, people would say put them on Spotify, and I thought, okay, I didn't realize that that was a thing that would be appropriate. But okay, they said put them on Spotify, so I was like, okay, I'll start releasing them on Spotify. Went off and figured out how to do that, put them on Spotify, and then they'd say, well, where's more songs? I said, okay, well, I'll do more songs. Um, so I guess being led by them, next thing was, do you have merchandise? Where's your merchandise? I'm like, okay, I'll get you that. My favorite one, I think, is Cameo. Are you familiar with
I do
Cameo.com?
know Cameo.
So Cameo was a bit of a surprise. People were saying, can you do a little song or a little video saying happy birthday to a friend of mine, or encouraging them for their exams? So I set myself up on Cameo.com, and it's been probably one of my favorite parts of my day is doing the Cameo videos. um, I get a little bit of information about the person. I write a custom song, like about a minute or 2 minutes long, and that's really enjoyable. And it's really enjoyable seeing their responses to them because I guess people are quite surprised and quite pleased to have a song. It's quite nice to have a song because I always wanted to make it so that, like, I'd looked at other cameos and it's somebody saying, "Hi, Jeremy, I hear it's your birthday. Happy birthday." And I thought I want to do something that they're going to save and want to watch over and over again. And so I thought, yeah, their own little song is is that. Now it's all exciting. Yeah, I guess they're the main highlights for me. Britain's Got Talent. Britain's Got Talent was interesting. Britain's Got Talent was interesting. It was a I had a really bad throat infection on the day. Really bad
Oh
throat infection.
no.
Mm. I could hardly talk, and I was really in a bad way. Like I was on the phone to my singing teacher asking for advice because I thought I wouldn't get through it. I thought backstage when I was talking, I was coughing every few words. Thankful when I was on the stage that I didn't actually cough and just break down, but yeah, I managed to get through it. And I guess for me, that was a bit of a highlight, just managing to get through that. But also, I guess very surprising if you think about it. Like on my social media, at that time I had about 600,000 followers around the world, right? The place where Britain's Got Talent was is called Manchester. It's a city in the UK, and the audience in the venue was about 2,000 people. And I kind of thought 500,000, 5 or 600,000 people worldwide. What's the chances of people in that audience of a couple of thousand people knowing me? And I thought probably not, probably not. However, when I walked out, they did, and that was a surprise. And so they started chanting my name and stuff as I walked out. Judges didn't know who I was, but they did. So yeah, and that was another surprise, I guess.
That's why they call it playing to the audience, right?
Yeah.
So, Richard, what's the process for getting on Britain's Got Talent? Because of course that is an incredible opportunity, and you put yourself at a level where it can exist. But how exactly did that end up happening? How did you get the opportunity to go on the show?
They contacted me and asked me to go on the show. So sorry, I've got no advice on how to get on the show.
That is good advice. You gotta leave your phone number in the right places.
Yeah. It was some of the producers of the show liked my songs already, so they thought this might be a good kind of person to have on the show. Mm.
Richard, what's something that you haven't done yet, but you still hope to pursue, kind of in that same area of comedy, of music, etc.?
I do want to come to the USA. I want to go to the USA. I haven't been to the USA much in my life at all, just as kind of stopovers on the way elsewhere. But I'd like to do shows in the USA. I have quite a lot of people asking me from several places around the country, and I just want to experience it. So yeah, that's a big thing coming to the USA. It's a big ordeal sorting that out. So it's a lot of planning, and I'm not sure when I'll do it, but that's something I'd like to do. I guess also another thing is my material, my content and my songs. I feel like they might lend well to maybe a cartoon. think they might lend well to a cartoon. So I've got buzzing around in my head ideas of maybe a cartoon with the little world that I've created, because I've created a little world with my flutes and recorders having different names and being kind of different characters. I thought it might be interesting to make a cartoon around that, with my songs in the background, in the kind of manner of what I do. Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first name for me that comes to mind, I think back to Legend of Steve, and I feel like that's such a nice starting point for a TV show. And then you can have the tunes around him. He has band practice. He's running late for something. All of a sudden, he has to grab his recorder. He gets into this weird challenge. He has to cross a bridge. He has to match the notes on a recorder, and he could go any direction with what you've already done.
Mhm. Legendist. I've got the new Steve songs coming out soon. I'm just working on that because yeah, the Legend of Steve song is introducing this character called Steve, and he goes and takes over a kingdom, and he becomes king at the end. And the new song is about the rule of Steve. So Steve's become the king, and now it's about the kingdom of Steve. So yeah, I guess I do think in a way that lends to a bit of a narrative. I like to do things in three, so there's going to be another Steve song as well.
I'm very, very excited for that. I'm glad to hear that it's on the horizon. And so, all right. So you play the recorder. You've made the recorder fantastic. Here, at least when I was in it was third and fourth grade. I want to say, looking back, that at least I'm from the States, of course. You start learning the recorder in music class, right? In your early years of primary school, right? And after you leave the class, you really never play it. They didn't really ask you to play it beyond one school recital, maybe learn one or two songs, but there's 30 or 40 kids. So are 30 or 40 kids really going to learn it, right? But you started young. You've brought it back. You've definitely made it stylish. It's certainly something that may be a little less complicated to learn than some of the other instruments out there. It may take a little less time. But the question here, Richard, for those that want to either play the recorder or just start making music, whether for a career, whether for fun, what would your advice to them be?
So for the recorder, I guess one of the reasons why schools use recorders is they're very, very cheap. You can buy a decent quality recorder for $10 or $20 from a good company like Yamaha or Aulos or something, and it could last you a while. You could get pretty good at. I mean, the recorders that I use in my um, audio recordings and all of my videos, none of them cost more than say $50. And so I think if you're wanting to play recorder, get one. Get the cheapest one from Yamaha or Aulos. Don't get a toy one from a toy shop or anything like that, because they won't sell any good. Get one from a music company like Yamaha or Aulos, and just start. I think the main thing that I would recommend is don't worry about being good. I think too many people wait until they're good before they start doing things. And often that time doesn't come because of that attitude. I think that you need to be playful when you're learning, and you need to have fun with it. And I think one of the ways you can have the most fun learning is by coming up with stuff yourself. I remember as a child, particularly when I moved on to playing the flute, I was playing lots of classical pieces, and it was nice, but I wasn't that into classical flute pieces as an 8 or 9 year old kid, right? And it's a lot more exciting, a lot more fun, and not more amusing to make up your own stuff. And I think, as anything, not worrying about being good, and then just doing more of it.
Repetition, right? The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more fun
Yeah,
it is, and feels less like a chore and more just like you're getting better at something you love.
yeah. And you will get better if you enjoy something. You do get better at it. Your mind makes that happen. The practice, yeah, it just reinforces that.
Uh, Richard, before the videos actually get posted, because of course, every time you hit publish, a lot of people are seeing it pretty quickly. Do you ever send your videos to friends or family to look at it, to comment beforehand, or is it just between you and the video and then it's going live right away?
I've learnt to just post what I like. so not to get feedback from others. I did originally, so the recorder in the corner song, which was my first one that went quite busy. I ran that by a couple of people, and they kind of shook their heads and went, "Huh?" I don't know. I don't know, Richard. That seems a bit dumb. And I posted it anyway, thankfully. But yeah, I think what I've learned is that people seem to like what I like, or at least the people who follow me like what I like. So I'll post what I like. I'll do things I like, which makes it quite easy for targeting an audience if it's me.
For sure. No, for sure. Some people, right? It's easy to get in your own head. If one person said you think it's great, but all of a sudden, right, you're looking for acceptance from others, maybe all of a sudden what you think is great, and it is great, the grass isn't as green because somebody else saw a little patch there that maybe isn't there, but they have the different perspective as you, and then all of a sudden, right, it can hinder everything.
And I guess yeah, some things catch on with others more than other things. Some things are more popular than others, and I'm fine with that. I don't really mind how much traction each one's gets. I just think I'm going to authentically just keep making stuff that I find interesting and fun.
And honestly, that's really what it's about at the end of the day. You're happy with something you're doing. Something you're doing is also making a difference in some way. And it feels rewarding because both of those things are true.
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
So you talk about the stand-up comedy. Have to go this way, Richard. What is if you had to, what's the best original joke that you've come up with? Your best original joke or stand-up, like short routine, maybe like short one, if you will. If I'm
I
lucky
guess
enough to hear, if we're lucky enough to hear it today.
I'm a little short snippet joke. I always move on with my favorites. I'm quite fickle like that. My favorite little one at the moment is I have um, maybe done a couple of jokes beforehand, which are a bit more silly, right? A bit more silly, and then I say, um, not everything is fun. Though I've been having a bit of a hard time in my life. Like I was walking along the other day, and a drum fell on my head, and I got percussion. Just a silly little joke.
Oh, that's what the deliver. It's all in the delivery. That's
Oh dear. It's my
um,
little favorite at the moment. Yeah.
and so all right. Before we move on, Richard, to our favorite section, so getting to know you a little bit beyond the music and beyond the comedy. What would you say is your favorite part of getting to do stand-up comedy?
I I used to think that it was the creative side of it. So creating the material, writing the material. Over time, I've learned that it's more about a relationship with an audience. So I guess, yeah, as a stand-up comedian, at first, all of your energy is going into just getting the stuff out there, like standing on stage, throwing information out. And it's kind of like you're talking at the audience rather than to them and being with them. So I guess my favorite part now, though, since I guess I've progressed on a little, is that it feels like I'm talking to them one at a time, although I'm not. I'm talking to the whole audience. I'm building a relationship and a dialogue with the audience. So that's my favorite thing. The moment from when they first see you on stage and don't know who you are and don't know if you're going to be any good. Um, that's a fun moment because there's the anticipation. But then the moment I enjoy is the like maybe 15 seconds or a minute in when they relax. They're okay. This person's funny. They deserve to be here. Let's enjoy this.
For sure.
Hmm.
For sure. Okay. On to the favorite section. We're going to ask you some questions here, some things you like, your favorite things here and there. We are going to run through, and then we are going to tell everybody where we can find all of your great work with specific links. You ready to dive in? All right. Richard, what is your favorite food to cook?
At the moment, my favorite food to cook is chicken wings.
Your
I like
favorite
chicken
sauce?
wings.
Do you have a go-to sauce in there?
I'm experimenting at the moment. I guess one of the things that I've always found in my life is when I get into something, I go deep, often too far. So yeah, like with stand-up comedy, when I started, I'd write 100 jokes or write 1,000 jokes, and I'd intently study how people did jokes and watch their specials and like figure out exactly what they're doing and use that to teach myself. And I guess yeah, with hot wings, with wings, um, I've just kind of started buying every kind of hot sauce that I can find here in Australia and trying it out. I guess my favorite is a a local brand's Carolina Reaper
Okay.
hot sauce, which has got a bit of garlic mixed in, which is nice.
So you're training for hot ones right now. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, maybe yeah, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. I like from the USA sauces. I like the Frank's hot sauce. It's nice. Not too spicy, but a nice tangy taste to it. Tapatio.
If only
But
I
I
could
guess
handle hot. If only I could personally handle the hot. I cannot. I can't do hot sauce. Buffalo for me is spicy. I'm not. I'm not the best with the spices. So I respect that you're able to really go deep on this. And some people can. You know, my palate does not allow for it.
hmm, yeah, it's
You're-
nice. I guess for me, I just like the variety. I like that. I like the chicken wings themselves, but I like that you can have like 20 different flavors, 20 different kind of varieties. I like variety, I really do. Yeah.
It's important. Always
Yeah.
get the variety pack when it's available. What's your favorite food to order when you go out to eat?
I like South Indian street food is usually my favorite. So masala dosa, which is like a flat lentil based, I guess, extra thin pancake or crepe with spiced stuff on it, chickpeas, tomatoes, potatoes. I guess yeah, South Indian street food is generally my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, really
Great.
nice. Yeah,
Do
again,
you have
lots of variety, lots of intensity and variety of flavor.
do you have a favorite sport to play or watch? Are you into sports?
It's something I never really got into. I guess me and my um, I guess I thought of recording as my sport. Um, and in New Zealand, the main game there is rugby. Are you familiar with rugby?
I don't know rugby. I've never played, but I've watched it. I've read about it. I've seen a couple. I think I've seen a couple movies, read a couple fiction stories where it actually revolves around rugby, but I've never actually played myself.
Okay, I think someone described it to me as being like a little bit like American football, but without the body armor.
Yep.
But
We'll
yeah,
figure out more.
New Zealand is really big on rugby. It's one of their main things, and all the kids like rugby. And I was sitting there playing recorder instead. Here's a little fun thing that happened to me though. Was well, not fun. It was a bit annoying. I was in a run of making concerts, and I get quite animated in my concerts. Particularly, there's bits where I get a recorder and I conduct the audience to clap along or do stuff along,
Mhm.
and I started getting a bit of a sore elbow. And I went to my doctor, and they said it feels like you've got tennis elbow. Yeah, you've got tennis elbow. And I said, they said, "What have you been up to?" And I said, "Oh, well, I've been, just conducting the audience with my recorder." And they go, "What?" I said, "I've never had that before." They said, "You're the first to have a case of recorder elbow." So yeah, when it comes to sports, I guess I'm the creator of recorder elbow.
All right, that's fair. Well, I could say you're my. I would get the recorder if you had jerseys. I would wear it to the match.
Recorder.
Many, I'm sure many would too. Okay.
Mm.
Your favorite fellow content creator that you've been able to interact with over the course of your career here?
There's a content creator who's not at all like me and not at all in my niche, called Chivy, who is a creator for VR games. Actually, um, I don't play VR games, but it just gelled with this guy. And like earlier on, when I was quite new, he started commenting on my videos, got in touch with me, and has been a bit of a mentor for me. So filled me in with a lot of the gaps of how social media works, which I needed, particularly because my following on social media went big overnight, and so I didn't have the experience of how to deal with that. I didn't have the experience of like kind of ramping up and then figuring out things as I went along. It kind of went from like on TikTok, 80 followers um, one week to 200,000 the next week. So I really needed someone to help me, and so he was that, which was really really nice and very very good. He used one of my songs, "Flute on the Roof," on one of his videos. He was one of the first people to use one of my songs on these videos, and he came along to my London concert too. I got to meet him. Yeah, such it's I guess it's a nice world. I guess
Yeah.
like any kind of job, you will have things in common with other creators that you wouldn't have in common with others because they're going through the same kind of stuff as you. I remember as a stand-up comedian before my social media started getting busy, I would see other stand-up comedians who had a social media following, and they're having conversations, and they didn't mean much to me. Those conversations when I heard them, and I just kind of shrugged it off. But now I'm one of them. Like I'm having those conversations, I relate to it.
It's nice to see, right? It's
Mm,
always nice to when you get into something that there's also those good people around you in that area that you can kind of make a little mini community, get to know the other people that are doing similar things, give each other advice, and honestly, just pat each other on the back when you got a good video go up.
yeah, there is that. That's nice. Mm.
Do you have a favorite author that you've read?
Favorite author? I've never really read much fiction. I guess I read fiction as a kid. I like Douglas Adams. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Terry Pratchett. Kind of weird worlds. Kind of ones that create a big unusual world which isn't of this earth. I guess because I was a kid that was always in my own little world. I guess things that were more normal weren't really of interest to me. So a story about what it's like being at school or being in a workplace or whatever. I was like, that's normal world. I like a different kind of fun, made up little world, which I guess is like my social media and songs now. None of it's serious. It's all very silly. Mm,
It's nice, right? A lot of people sometimes life can get serious, a lot can happen. It's nice
mm,
to be able to kind of take a break and enjoy these types of things and the type of stuff you're doing, especially right, so much going on everywhere that when you can just take 20, 30 minutes, scroll through a feed, listen to a couple of these songs, it's a nice reprieve, relax. You're just relaxing and you're not worrying about it just for a little while. You can pretend that it's all good and you got this great music, which is really the beauty of it.
mm. Thanks. And indeed, I think that I like to think of myself as an entertainer and for my stuff to be an escape. Like, which is why I don't really do anything political. I'm not about reminding people of problems. I don't really do stuff that's necessarily that relatable or topical. In stand-up comedy too. I mean, some really great stand-up comics do stuff which is political and topical and about the world and about how things really are. But for me, I like people to, I guess, join my world, have fun, and be entertained. So I'm more of a clown.
All right, the last one we got here, Richard. Then we will give you a chance to plug in, and we'll sign off. Who's your favorite musical artist? Because I'm sure many people want to know the answer to this question.
My favorite musical artist is, again, it changes all the time. But over the time, my favorite musical artists have generally been musical comedians. So growing up, my favorite was Weird Al Yankovic. Really liked him. Um, Later on in my teenage years,
Oh yeah, that's a good one
Adam
too.
Sandler, who is in the stand-up comedy industry and world, he's thought of as uncool, but I don't care. I like his stuff. He's funny, silly. I like his movies. I like everything. Um, but then I guess from a not comedy side of things, I like bands that also don't really always take themselves so seriously. Like I like the US band Weezer. I like them. They're fun. They're kind of bouncy. I guess maybe I've got some influence from them in my songs as well. I feel a bit bouncy and catchy. I like Nightwish, which is a Nordic symphonic metal band. Again, don't necessarily take themselves seriously, but very big on the musical accompaniment. And um, Tom Waits, US US crooner singer, very good songwriter. I like him because of the simplicity. Like he's really good at making a song and not really worrying about bells and whistles. It just being very simple, and the song being the good thing about it.
It's a great list. Any list to me that has Adam Sandler. You also got Weird Al. Any other name, no other name can mess up that list. That to me, that's the one. So always grew up loving Adam Sandler, his movies, music, and of course, every time you sit down to eat, how can you not start just belting out "Eat It" by Weird Al? It's impossible. You can't help it. Because he touches on so many foods in that song. There's a good chance that most of the meals you're sitting down for making are probably from his song. You know, there's too many.
One of my favorite concerts was just last year when I saw Weird Al for the first time. And he had Emo Phillips open for him, who's also another favorite stand-up comedian of mine over the years. And it was lovely. And it was his extremely ill-advised vanity tour, he called it, which was him doing his own original songs and none of his covers, which I thought was really cool, really fun.
That's great. That's a classic Weird Al right there. That's why he's got his name, right? Weird Al Yankovic. His name is just Al Yankovic. But
Oh, really? So
he
his
got
first name isn't weird.
that is a perfect place here to close out, Richard. Where can we find your work?
The best place is just go to richardlindsay.com. It's spelt strange. It's got a rogue E in there. It's Lindesay. I guess one of my ancestors misspelled it or something. But to make it a bit easier, I've also got richardrecorder.com forwards to the same place. But I find these days also, if you just search for Richard and Recorder on any kind of thing, I'll be at the top. So I'm pretty findable.
All right, make sure everybody you go online, you type in Richard space recorder, and everything we just talked about. You will see it, you will hear it, you will remember it, you will get earworm from all of it, and it is going to stick. You're going to share it, you're going to pass it on, and then voila. But Richard, a pleasure having you. Thank you for coming on. Glad we can make the conversation happen. Looking forward to the new music that should be coming out soon.
Thanks. It's been fun.
All right, he's Richard Lindesay. Zach with an H as always. We will see you next time.